Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name's Austin Van Churen,
And my name's Patrick Ferry.
and welcome to our show. Well, guys, we're finally back. Thank you for bearing with us. I know it's been a little while since we filmed, but we had some international friendlies, Pat, which weren't too exciting, and we felt like we didn't really have anything to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, Austin. Yeah, didn't want to bore you guys with an analysis of not very much action at all. A lot of losses, unfortunately, but yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
What did you say your analysis was of the England game?
I don't even want to say it on air.
Wasn't it just something like England's very good, and that was
very
pretty much
good,
it?
and we're not.
So yeah, I mean, we didn't really have much to talk about with the international friendlies, and then we had some stuff in our personal lives that we had to attend to. I think the past 2 weeks or so. So yeah, but we're back today. We have some different players again this week that we want to talk about. So Pat, what do you say?
Austin, I say let's get into it.
Well, guys, we want to start off today's episode talking about two players who actually play for the same team. First player is Haji Wright, and then the second player, you guys all know, is Weston McKennie. So Haji Wright this weekend actually made his first Bundesliga start, which was very impressive to see. Obviously there's some circumstances that have come around this start, considering that Schalke are kind of depleted at the striker position. But, Haji's been playing really well for the U23s this year for Schalke. And, they decided to give him a call up to the first team, not only this weekend, but last weekend as well, where he actually made his Bundesliga debut, Pat. And I know we were kind of excited to see that.
It's a quick turnaround from, our season one where there wasn't too much hope for Haji there. But it looks like he's really put his head down and worked hard and is obviously had some breaks, like you said, with the injuries. But it's good to see him getting some Bundesliga minutes.
Yeah, like Pat alluded to, like last year at Sandhausen, he just did not do well. Didn't seem to really integrate well into that Sandhausen first team for whatever reason it was. Whether it was the lack of a similar playing style that we heard from some people that we talked to on Twitter, but also just the fact that the coach didn't really seem to rate him much at Sandhausen.
Yeah, and not making excuses, but I'm sure going on loan can be difficult too anywhere. So
right. Oh yeah, it's a completely different atmosphere and environment. And moving down a level's got to be, just completely different than what he's experienced so far in his career. But with that being said, he's played well this year for the U23s, which is the only game action he's really gotten before these last two games in the Bundesliga. So to his credit, he's put himself in a position where, when some strikers went down, Pat, he was the guy that Schalke called up and looked to, which is kind of cool.
It must be kind of saying something. So I'm sure there's some other U23 strikers too that have been performing fairly well. But yeah, that's good that he's getting a look.
Yeah. Now I guess we should talk a little bit about the performance this weekend before we go too crazy on our respect and admiration for Haji sticking it out at Schalke. But in this game, Haji Wright played 70 minutes. Didn't look so good because he was basically just kind of slow to recognize things during the game. He was a little out of sync with some of the players around him, which obviously is kind of hard coming into a side for the first time and building that chemistry. That's a hard thing to do. But his first touch wasn't great in this game as well, which was something that we've heard issues about him in the past, Pat, that that was one of the discrepancies of why he wasn't thought of as a big time prospect or a player that really had a Schalke future until maybe this point.
U23 to Bundesliga debut, and obviously the second game, your touch has got to be on point. The game's definitely faster, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean he he didn't look great in this game, but Schalke again have had a brutal season, as we've documented so much this year, Pat. That it's kind of hard to be a striker in that system. It's basically a lot of long balls up that you gotta head down to players around you, and then kind of make a run from time to time, do a lot of defensive work. Yeah, it's brutal watching them this year, but they got a point, and Haji helped them do that, which is kind of cool. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much more of Haji we'll see, especially if those Schalke strikers and attackers can get healthy again. We might not see the need for Schalke to look to Haji, especially since he didn't really do anything crazy in this game to leave his mark on the Schalke first team and put something in Domenico Tedesco's mind that for the next game he should be involved for certain, because he was that much of a difference maker. But like we said, he's a young player. He's 20 years old, and he got his Bundesliga debut, or his his first Bundesliga start, which is impressive.
Give him props for that, yeah.
Yeah, very, very impressive, and something that, like we said, we didn't really see happening last year. So props to Haji. And another person who was very in favor of Haji playing, and someone who's been a big advocate for Haji, is Weston McKennie. And he actually had some words after the game on Haji, was saying that, and this was in an interview after the game, was saying that, Haji's the type of player you just want to keep giving minutes to and giving opportunities to, because he'll always come back to impress you and, make good on those opportunities, something to that effect. If we find the video, I'll play it here.
I believe he did it to the best he could today, and he's one of the guys that you keep pushing, you keep giving him confidence, and you'll see what type of player he is, and hopefully he gets more opportunities coming up.
And yeah, it was really cool to see from Weston.
And now American backing him up there, Austin.
Yeah. That's so cool to see. And I know, Pat, we've talked about it before, how many Americans are at Schalke, with Zyen Jones. You have Nick Taitague as well. All four of them seem to really, bond with each other and kind of help each other along, over in Germany.
Yeah, and that's actually brings up a point too. It's difficult, not to make it sound bleak, but your chances of getting up to the first team are even slimmer, and then with all the Americans in competition for certain spots, like, it's nice to see that they still have that camaraderie and making sure some of them are on the same levels, but they can all kind of come together under the one club. Yeah,
it's really cool. And then also you got Christian Pulisic and I don't know, maybe Chris Richards as well, Sebastian Soto over there in Germany. There's a lot of Americans going to Germany now.
A lot of Americans.
So, yeah. Yeah, that's true, I guess. But yeah, so just to touch on Weston McKennie now real quick. So Weston actually came on in this game, which was his first appearance after his injury that he suffered, I guess, in the USMNT camp. I'm not sure if it was in the England game, but I know he got sent home for an injury after that England game. So it was good to see him back on the pitch, played the final 20 minutes, and was used again as that second striker in that position where Domenico Tedesco uses a player to kind of press, high press the defenders of the opposing team to create more chances. And, he did that to great success in this game. I thought he looked really well in those 20 minutes, or looked really good in those 20 minutes, played very well. So, yeah, and, both played well enough this weekend for Schalke to earn a point, which is good to help them after this, horrendous start. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's always good.
Time to bounce back.
Yeah. So now let's move over to – where are we going to go, Pat? I guess we're going to go to Belgium.
Going to Belgium.
Ethan Horvath, right?
Yeah, our boy Ethan Horvath, who's had, again, a great resurgence, like we've mentioned before. But most recently, his performance, I believe, in a 3-0 clean sheet for him against Standard Liège, if I'm pronouncing that right. So that actually moves Bruges up to second, I think, 1 point behind the league leaders there. Is it Ghent, I think? It's
well, there's two, yeah. I'm not sure at the moment.
But they're 1 point behind, which is good. And an interesting stat I actually saw off of a Twitter account here. I think it's Future USMNT. They have some great stuff. So I guess in the last 7 games, he's only allowed 5 goals, 4 clean sheets he's had, and 2 has been undefeated, you could say, in the Champions League with that tie against Dortmund most recently, and then that fantastic performance against Monaco for Horvath. And so he also got a Champions League Team of the Week, so some stats to throw at you guys. And Austin, I think that's just really impressive, and you can see, even though we're not talking about the U.S. friendlies, he was bombarded against Italy, has really looked good for his club too, and that resurgence and that confidence you can see is really important. I think that's a great push for him.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good against Italy. Like, he had a great performance, like one that was, I think, better than Zack Steffen's performance against France earlier in the year. And I thought that was a really good performance.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you think, Pat. I was
that's
really
a good point.
Impressed.
Yeah, I mean, Horvath just looks so strong out there. Like, you could just see, it looks like he's gotten a little bit bigger of a build, has stronger kind of, that, I don't know if it's like the forearm or the wrist. So when those powerful shots kind of knuckle at you, you could even see it in some of the Italy game up close, nice firm kind of stance there, exactly what a keeper is supposed to do, and didn't go through his hands or anything like that. No bumbling or muffed things
in between his legs.
In between his legs. We won't talk about that, but yeah, it's great to see that he is really playing with so much confidence again. And again, an interesting name you brought up, kind of pushing Steffen for that one spot.
Yeah,
I'm not going to mention Guzan, so
right, that's true. There's 2 interesting names for different reasons.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see Brad Guzan move to Man City anytime soon. But the one name is Zack Steffen, who may be moving to Man City. So, Pat, what do you think about that move? Since we're on the Ethan Horvath, we started talking about him at the national team level. What do you think about Zack Steffen's move to Man City? Kind of going off the cuff here a little bit.
I'm not really sure, how I feel about that. I definitely think he should try himself back in Europe. I think he's really surpassed the MLS level. He's an elite keeper there. We've seen it in the last few times in the playoffs. I don't know. I think he's going to be one of those players who gets loaned out, or I've heard rumors that he could kind of back. I think who was the Man City keeper that was back, like injured? I guess kind of
Claudio Bravo.
Yeah, Bravo.
Chilean keeper.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So he could be a number 2, but that wouldn't again leave him much playing time.
I just find that so hard to believe. Like, the dude's good. Don't get me wrong. I think Zack Steffen's a really good prospect at goalkeeper, but like just 3 or 4 months ago, he was being rumored to go to Bristol City. Yeah, and now Man City wants him to be their second keeper. I don't know. I don't see the truth in that. Unless they want to loan him out.
And maybe just kind of like a small profit they want to make, see if he can become better and sell him to.
I mean, they bought McStiskerud, so.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and I guess Erik Palmer-Brown, although they didn't really pay a fee for him. So
he could join. He could be Nac Breda's keeper. Looks like they need some help later, but.
Yeah, they might not be in the Eredivisie by the end of the year.
Yeah, but I don't know, Austin. It doesn't really make too much sense to me. If I were Steffen, I would want to go. Honestly, I would love if I could relish a shot back into Bundesliga and compete against Freiburg and some of those other teams. Like I think even a Bundesliga or a Dutch league, or I don't know, just I don't see Man City really being viable.
Yeah. So would you want – so if it was either Man City or MLS, what would you do? Would you take the MLS, or would you take the Man City move, or would you stay in the MLS hoping that, a club from one of those other leagues you're talking about kind of comes in and shows interest and puts in a bid that's, up to Columbus Crew's standard? Or would you just take your chance with Man City and, try to prove yourself wherever they see you – fit in within their organization, whether that's on loan or at Man City?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and also a difficult one, just because I don't know the backstories behind, if he has other offers, what the situations are with his agent. But what we see and what we've heard is this Man City offer is here. So, I mean, honestly, to answer your question, I would probably jump at the Man City and then most likely be loaned out to a pretty good team in Europe somewhere.
It would probably be a pretty good pay increase too. Like, you gotta think about that,
That's
from
true.
his perspective.
That's very true. Yeah, financial security there.
Yeah, why not take a pretty good contract? I'm guessing Man City's offering him compared to his Columbus Crew deal.
Absolutely, and then that's a good point too. Like if you stay in MLS with Horvath's resurgence too, I think he really needs to jump on this opportunity, be in Europe, and then we have two really high quality keepers kind of competing with each other for that #1 spot in hopefully top European clubs.
Wow, yeah, he's gonna play wherever he goes though. That's the one thing that's nice with MLS is he actually will be able to play, or we don't foresee any issues with him, getting surpassed by another keeper at Columbus Crew. Right. So if he stays with the Crew, then he's guaranteed playtime to show himself to the new manager, just Greg Berhalter.
yeah, Greg Berhalter. Yeah.
Found out now. But hey, maybe he has some built up trust with Greg since he was his manager for what, 2 seasons or so. So maybe it could go somewhere and have a little bit of leniency. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to watch though, Austin. So exciting stuff. Obviously Horvath and hopefully Steffen's potential move, but keeper's looking like a promising position as always.
Yeah, that's good to see too, because it's been I guess it hasn't been a long time since Tim Howard was really, really good, but it just seems like it's been forever since we saw the really bad side of Tim Howard dealing with age over the past World Cup qualifying cycle. So yeah, like you said, great to see two goalkeepers moving on up in their careers.
That's right. And Austin, speaking of players moving on up, back to one of your Bunda boys.
Well, now he is.
Now he is, right?
Now he's going to be a Bunda boy, and that would be Tyler Adams. So we're really excited to finally be able to start talking about Tyler on our show. He's obviously one of the bright, young prospects of the men's national team. And we just wanted to let you guys know that, his rumored move to RB Leipzig, that's been probably rumored all season now, or all MLS season, is actually gonna happen this winter. He's going to transfer from the New York Red Bulls to RB Leipzig in Germany. So, Pat, what do you think of this move? And is this a good move for Tyler?
Yeah, obviously, I think this is a great move. Again, one of those players who kind of surpassed the MLS level. He's been there for a few years. I think he has like 106, 107 caps for the first team. Something like that has really just made himself a prominent figure in MLS and with Red Bull.
And that's all before 20 as well.
It's
really impressive.
And with I think 8 or 9 caps now with the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, I think it's got to be up there.
It's getting up there,
but high because I feel like he hasn't been involved in, or he wasn't involved in a few camps because of injury earlier in the year.
Right.
But he played against Portugal in that game right after World Cup qualifying, which is almost a year ago now.
Yeah,
so that's probably right. That number.
Yeah, but again, I think this is a very ambitious move. That's for sure. And again, just from what I was looking at, the formations that they've been playing, the 4-1-2-1-2, kind of like that diamond midfield there, he could kind of slot in there pretty well. He also has a familiar face with Jesse Marsch being an assistant over there.
Yeah.
Again, nothing crazy. He's not gonna, spoon feed him or things like that. I was reading in an interview that Marsch is excited for Adams, but he's gonna treat him like a grown. He is like a man, 19-year-old professional player playing in one of the best, most demanding leagues in Europe and a very, very ambitious club now. So I think it's going to be an interesting time for him when he moves in, was it January?
Yeah, it should be, January 1st. He should be over there, if not sooner.
I want to get your take on this, Austin, because obviously I'm saying ambitious. I'm excited. Is he going to start right away? What are your kind of thoughts? Because I know you've been covering the Bundesliga a little bit, and you know a little more than I do. But just in terms of Adams and this great move to Leipzig. Yeah.
So let me, I guess, preface what I'm about to say, Pat, with, you know, my admiration, or I keep saying admiration this episode, but my support for this move. I think it's a great move from Tyler Adams' you know, standpoint. I think it's a great place to go improve himself. I think the Bundesliga is a fantastic league for, you know, young American players, especially to you know, go over. They've already established a lot of credibility within the league from, you know, all the players that play in the Bundesliga now, or at least are on Bundesliga teams. So I think it's a great move for him. I think it's a smart move also within the Red Bull organization, and it's, you know, something he's taken advantage of. But with that being said, I just want to maybe be a little cynical, since, you know, RB Leipzig right now sit third in the Bundesliga, are a very, very good team, a team that has, you know, a lot of established players. Obviously, they have given, you know, some minutes to younger players over the past few seasons, but a lot of those players that they bring in are, you know, players that, you know, have already had time. And I guess, you know, Tyler Adams has over 100 caps for, you know, New York Red Bulls, but they're players that are kind of, how do I want to say it? I think there's a lot of established players in the RB Leipzig squad. So I think it'll just be tough from the get-go to expect, you know, Tyler Adams to come right in and, you know, get minutes right away. I think he's going to have to –
starter, you're saying?
Yeah, I just think people's expectations are a little high for him right now. I think that, you know, over this next spring part of the Bundesliga season, I think he'll get some minutes and I think he'll get some opportunities. But I think it's really got to be up to him to make the most of those opportunities. I don't think he's going to get, you know, a lot of playing time this spring unless he looks really good in those minutes he gets. But, you know, I don't expect him to come in and start right away or, you know, be a main focal point of what RB Leipzig do, just because I think they already have so many established players who have already taken them to third in the Bundesliga this year. I don't think they're really searching for answers. It's not like he's going to a team like Schalke who are sitting, you know, I don't even know if they're sitting at the end of the weekend, but it's probably, you know, in the relegation spots or close to the relegation zone, where if a player came in, they would be more willing to kind of throw him into the fire and see what he can do. I think, you know, at RB Leipzig, like I said, they have a established starting lineup. I think they have, you know, a squad of 15, 18 players that they feel really comfortable with throwing out on the pitch. And I'm not so certain that they're just going to take Tyler Adams and kind of throw him into that fold of those players and you know, instantly even be in the starting or the 18 for games. I think he'll take a little bit of time to kind of get integrated into that Leipzig squad. And
yeah, like you said,
if he can do it, that's great. And, you know, shows that he's a good player and has good mental toughness. But if not, then, you know, there's other options. Red Bull Salzburg would be another location. I think, you know, if he goes there and plays, I think that wouldn't be, you know, the worst decision or the worst outcome out of this move.
Staying in Red Bull.
Yeah.
But no, that's a really good point you brought up too. It's coming in the January transfer window. Like you said, established team. Like he's not coming at the beginning of the season. They're already full swing into it.
Exactly. And I mean, the Bundesliga does have a winter break, which is nice, and we'll probably give him some more time to kind of integrate into the squad. And, you know, I expect him to be over training with Leipzig, you know, in December, to be honest with you, in the next few weeks, if he's not already over there. Because he can do that, to my knowledge, but he just can't play in any games.
Yeah.
But, and like you said, Jesse Marsch is there, so maybe, you know, Jesse has some credibility now with that coaching staff that they can trust his intuition and maybe give Tyler some minutes earlier than some of the other coaches would expect of, you know, another type of player coming in.
Right. And I think, so would you say, I guess, kind of taking the cynical approach there, which is completely understandable because I do definitely see some of your points. Would you say it would be more kind of that adaptation kind of year, get some maybe playing time during cup games, things like that in the spring, see a little bit of action, and then would that kind of, I guess, the fall of 2019 be, you know, the 2019-2020 season be very, very crucial? He should be part of that first, like, be in the starting lineup, do you say?
Yeah, so that's a good, I guess it's a good question that you raise, or a good,
yeah, I don't know. It was a question.
It's good to talk about what the future, I guess, career path of Tyler should be with this move. So, I think if he can come in, make anywhere between 5 to 10 substitute appearances in the spring, whether that's, well, I guess let me put it this way. I think if he can play maybe up to 400 to 500 minutes in the spring, I think that's a very successful spring part of his season. If that's, like I was saying, 5 to 10 substitute appearances in the Bundesliga, and then maybe starting a cup game or two, like you said, Pat. If he can do that this year in the spring, I think that's a very successful spring for him. I don't think, he should be starting any games for Leipzig unless something happens where, injuries take place and they need to look to someone and he steps in and, kind of similar to what Haji Wright did, comes in and shows that he can play. Where was I going with this? No, so I think, yeah, if he gets like close to like 500 minutes this spring in the Bundesliga, that'd be great. I think that's a successful season. Anything less than that, then I think maybe, that's not very successful, and that maybe a loan to Red Bull Salzburg would be more likely for the next season. And then for next year, depending on what happens this spring, if he does get those 500 minutes or so, I don't see why he couldn't, kind of break his way into the starting lineup in the 2019-2020 Bundesliga season. But I also think he could spend another year kind of on the bench being, one of the reserves, starting here or there, but not really being a starter for Leipzig. Because like I said, they have so many different players, or so many established players, and they have a very similar starting 11 from game to game. That I just don't think they're going to, especially in the spring here, just take a player and, play around with him, inserting him into the starting lineup from time to time. I think, they're very direct, or they have a lot of thought that goes into what players that they want to put on the pitch, and they have a lot of good players, so I don't blame them.
Oh yeah, those are good points. So again, I overall just want to say very excited. Congrats to Tyler, and I think his stock's only going to go up from here. Again, maybe he does kind of go out to a Salzburg, which wouldn't be horrible, but he does really force his way into the lineup, like you said. That'd be great too. Just to test himself in Europe, I think he's ready to do that. So
yeah, it's great to see another young player going abroad. So we always like that, especially from our standpoint.
That's right.
It gives us something to talk about. But so Pat, where do we want to go next?
That's right. We want to go over to the Netherlands, and kind of another young Man City loanee. We're not talking about Mix.
Right.
We're talking about Erik Palmer-Brown with NAC Breda. So just to kind of recap, I guess, his most recent performance, he was involved in a 5-2 loss over this past weekend against Groningen, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, so again, NAC Breda is really, really sitting at the bottom there right now. I actually watched some of the highlights just to kind of see, 5 goals is a lot. And Erik Palmer-Brown didn't get subbed out. His center back one of his partners did. We were just going over the name, and I kind of it slipped my mind, but he's been subbed out recently. So they're in.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the highlights. Every goal that was in, it was miscommunication between the back line, the outside backs. Players were just not marking anyone. They had free crosses. And every time the ball went in, they would all look at each other, throw their arms around like, those wacky waving inflatable just yelling. And Erik Palmer-Brown's just standing there like this, like what am I doing? I kind of feel for him. I didn't really think. I think maybe one of the goals was kind of his fault, but mainly it was from the other side of the defense, and they just look like a big mess, NAC Breda. So unfortunate situation for Erik. I know he's been starting the last few games, which is exciting to finally see him forced into that lineup, Austin.
Yeah.
So yeah,
doesn't sound like he's in a good spot though, regardless.
Yeah, not a good spot at all. So it'd be kind of interesting. I'm hoping he can kind of just push through, maintain that starting role for the rest of the year, and I guess we'll see where Man City sends him next.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't want to sound so, I guess bleak.
Pessimistic.
Pessimistic. Yeah. But I don't know your thoughts about Erik Palmer-Brown in general. And I guess it's good he's breaking in, but yeah, I don't know. Not a good situation, Austin.
Yeah, just from what you said, that sounds kind of brutal. I guess I'm happy to see him starting regularly, but I don't know. If he's not doing well, then it's not good, I guess. I guess he's getting his kinks out in Europe early, hopefully,
Yeah, this will mold him into a better player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to kind of, again, quickly just shift on to another center back who has had some struggles in the time, but has kind of been, again, forcing himself back into the starting lineup, which is good to see. And Austin, that is Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Our boy, CCV.
Our boy, CCV with Swansea. So I believe it was the last 2 games he's been starting. And unfortunately has been involved. I think they're both 2-1 losses. So not great. I know Swansea's kind of sitting in the middle of the championship there, which is kind of like a black hole that you can't really get out of. But again, CCV has, I think, only had 5 or 6 appearances this season. Now that I was looking back on Transfer Market, a lot of it said just sitting on the bench, which isn't a good sign.
Yeah, I guess it's not good, especially since last year he got a lot of game time in the championship. So
yeah, a little concerning. So I'm not sure if it's just a coaching decision or what it is, but we've been accustomed to seeing CCV kind of as that 3rd or 4th kind of center back for the U.S. national team now, as they've been kind of trying their players, I guess, whatever you call it, this last year.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's a difficult situation for him too, just being loaned out from Tottenham, who is very reassured in the back there. I don't see
Although over the weekend they didn't look so reassured.
That's right.
Getting a red card.
That's right, Austin. So maybe that's CCV's chance. But
I don't think so.
No,
this year, but yeah.
I mean, at least he's starting now, which is good. And Swansea's a much better situation than EPB, which I just mentioned. So I mean, we can only hope that he continues getting game time as a young player. That's really all you can ask for, just to improve those deficiencies he has.
Yeah, and I think I know we talked about it at the beginning of the season when Cameron Carter-Vickers actually went to Swansea. Swansea don't really have too much depth at the center back position, so if they get any injury issues, over the season, he'll be relied on pretty heavily. So
yeah, that's a really good point, Austin. A lot of the center backs, I believe, were covering. I think they were in between the age of like 19 to 21, 22, like very young center backs too. So
okay, yeah, I think 2 games in a row is not bad. Just more to build on, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, Austin, kind of shifting back to you and a player that we haven't really. I don't think we've talked about.
I don't think we've talked about him once on our show yet, but maybe we talked about him in the summer transfers episode that we had to start the season.
Possible.
But that would be Kekuta Manneh, who's actually at FC St. Gallen over in Switzerland. And we just wanted to bring him up real quick because he's actually been a pretty big part of their first team this season. He didn't start this past weekend, but before this past weekend, he actually played in their last 3 games and started for FC St. Gallen. So we kind of just wanted to let you guys know that he's playing in Switzerland. He hasn't scored a goal or had an assist this year. I believe in 9 games that he's played. So that's not so great, I guess. But it's good to see that he's actually getting on the field, especially after last season where he kind of went to a few different places and didn't really have so much success. So
yeah, maybe it'll kind of turn into a Gaul situation, Scandinavian.
Hey, maybe. I think maybe he's not similar to Romain Gall, but he's a technical winger who has a little bit of speed. That's my assessment of him so far. Just not super consistent.
And I don't want to throw too many Switzerland league questions at you, but St. Gallen, from FIFA. I'm familiar with St. Gallen. I mean, I don't know if they're not the young boys, but I know they're towards the top or like middle of the table, right?
Yeah, I didn't look at the table before the episode, but like you said, they're a proven top flight team in Switzerland. A league that's not. I would say they're probably a top 15 league in the world, maybe. at least top 20. You can argue with me on that, I guess, top 20. But, I think they're definitely below the Eredivisie and below the Portuguese league. I think they're a little bit higher. And maybe it's just because some of the top teams in Switzerland are, so much better than some of the other teams in like Sweden or Norway. I would say that the Swiss league is a little bit above Sweden, but I don't really have any proof to back that. That's just kind of my opinion and how I see other players and teams in the leagues. But
keep an eye on him though.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it because I know he's a player that some people are interested in, and he's a player that we haven't really talked about ever on our show. And he's actually playing this year, so it's not like he's just sitting the bench in Mexico or something like he was last season.
Yeah.
But so now let's go to our last player in this segment, and that would be Sergino Dest. So Pat, what did Sergino do this weekend?
That's right. Sergino actually had his second start of the season and was involved in an awesome 5-2 win over FC Fuente in the second. What do you call that?
The Eredivisie, right?
Eredivisie, yeah.
And that's for Young Ajax, right?
Young Ajax, yeah. So when he got his debut goal was fantastic, Austin. Kind of just slotted it in. Came from the right wing there. Just placed it across the goal. On the ground in the corner pretty confidently. And again, like I said, it's the second appearance. And to get that goal, it seems like they're really putting trust in him. And that's a pretty good league. That was what Novakovich and Kyle Scott is in right now.
That's right, yeah.
So it's great to see him kind of being involved there, Austin. So what are your kind of thoughts on Sergino's rapid rise?
Yeah, I thought, this season he's really taken his game to the next level. He was a big part of that U17 World Cup in 2017 for the U.S. And I thought he looked, pretty good, especially going forward in that World Cup. And then this year for Ajax at the U19 level, and then also now at Young Ajax, they've kind of moved him up the wing a little bit to play more as a winger instead of a right back. And he's shown that he's a very technical player, Pat.
Yeah, you can see that
in the videos we've seen.
He posted something on his Instagram account too during the CONCACAF U20 championships.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I saw that.
A bunch of people.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the players that he went up against was Diego Lainez or something.
Yeah.
And he said something on Twitter or something that he was going to shut him down or something. Maybe that was something I saw. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. But
the US won, so yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've been really impressed with his rise so far. I know when we did our 19 under 19 list earlier this year, we actually didn't have Sergino on that list, and that was unfortunate because when we made our list, he wasn't really doing anything crazy at Ajax. He wasn't really climbing the ranks, and then once we made our list and kind of ironed it out, that was when he kind of took off this year and has had he's starting for Young Ajax right now, which is, I think his next step into actually getting integrated into Ajax's first team. So
fantastic step. And Ajax is a great club. They develop a lot of great young players.
Yeah. And he's still young. He's only 18 years old. So Young Ajax, I believe, is a U21 team. I don't think it's a U23 team, but that's pretty impressive playing 3 age levels up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And being a crucial part of this U20 cycle, it looks like, especially from hearing that interview with Tab Ramos when he was talking about certain players that was on the Scuffed podcast.
Yeah,
so check that
was
out.
a good podcast.
So
he looked like a man among boys out there when he got integrated with the U20 team or with the US U20s against what was it, Honduras and then Mexico. Like we've seen from some of the highlights and GIFs and things like that. Dest looks unbelievable. Again, like you said, very technical, very confident, and he's going to definitely be one to watch for the future.
Yeah,
or now the present could be the present.
Maybe, could very well be. I don't know. We'll have to see. How his season goes, and we'll keep you guys updated every step of the way. Isn't that right, Pat?
That's right. All right, guys. It's my favorite time of the show. It's none other than Quick Kicks.
So you could test Dwayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
All right, guys. So to start off Quick Kicks on a positive note, our boy Andrija Novakovich returned from injury, subbed on the 75th minute in a 3-1 loss against Heerenveen.
Yeah, and going over to Germany, Sebastian Soto scored yet again for Hannover's U19s this weekend in their 2-0 win over VfL Osnabrück's U19s. So he scored the second goal, and nothing unusual from Sebastian.
And Austin, Konrad de la Fuente, another exciting young prospect, made his Barca B debut. Came on the 74th minute. Unfortunately, did give away a penalty kick, but nonetheless got his debut.
Nice, Pat. And moving back to Germany, we have two players from Schalke who got game time this weekend, in addition to Haji and Weston. And the first one would be Zyen Jones, who actually scored the go-ahead goal for Schalke's U19s in their 4-2 win over VfB Bochum, and their U19s. And then for Schalke's U23s, Nick Taitague actually scored for them in their 3-0 win. So congrats to those guys. They had a good week.
Awesome. Moving away from Schalke America, we have Deandre Yedlin was involved in an unfortunate 3-0 loss to West Ham and also had a yellow card, but went the full 90.
And again, going back to Germany, we have Christian Pulisic, who unfortunately missed out on Dortmund's game over the weekend due to a muscle injury, but played actually 90 minutes in Dortmund's 0-0 draw with Club Brugge in the Champions League earlier in the week. So, hopefully Christian gets well soon.
Awesome. And then we're switching over to Mukwelle Akale. Actually got some game time for Villarreal B. So that's exciting to see, Austin, a name that we haven't really mentioned too much. So keep pushing forward, Mukwelle.
That's all right. And talking about another striker in this episode, and that would be Charlie Kelman, who actually scored a goal for Southend United's U18s this weekend in their 6-0 win over Leyton Orient's U18s. So go on, Charlie.
And Shaq Moore, Austin, finally getting some game time starting 90 minutes. An unfortunate loss for Royo State Portillo against RCD Mallorca.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But finally, we want to end with another defender, again in Germany, and that would be Chris Richards, who made the bench for Bayern's 2 team over the weekend for the very first time, and then also played a role in Bayern's U19's draw with Mainz in their 2-2 draw over the weekend. So cool to see that he made the 2-team bench, but also cool to see that he held down his starting spot in the U19 team. And finally, we want to end this episode with another young Ya. And this week, it would be Anel Sabanadzovic, who's a Bosnian American who's 19 years old and actually just transferred to AEK Athens in Greece from a team in the Bosnian League for 1 million euros. And that was the that team in the Bosnian League. That was their most, I guess their what's the word? Yeah, most expensive transfer in history. So congrats to Anel, and go look up some more information about him. He could be a player that we call up in the near future. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe down below.
And also make sure to check out our Instagram and Twitter accounts. We have a lot of social media things going on. Instagram live story we're starting to get into, so be sure to be on the lookout.
That's right. And also make sure to leave a comment on this video, telling us about players you'd like to hear us talk about in the future, or, discuss some of the players that we mentioned in this episode. We always love to interact with you guys, so don't be afraid.
That's right. And Austin, with all these great transfers happening and a lot of players taking their shot into the big leagues in Europe, what's going to happen?
Well, I think one day all these moves that all these players are doing going abroad, I think they're all going to lead up to us winning the World Cup.